Alright guys, now we're going to create our first Django project and we want to build our backend API. So now the first thing is that you need to install Django. I have already created my project in here, and you can see that I'm using a virtual environment. And right now we don't have Django in our site packages. So now if you see the documentation of Django, so how to install Django, if you come down, now you can use pip install Django for the Django installation. So let me just copy this, and in here let me just paste this. So pip install Django, and after that you need to hit enter. Okay, now I'm waiting for the installation of the Django. Alright guys, now Django installation has been completed, and you can see that we have Django 3.1. Now after a Django installation, what we want to do to install a Django REST framework. So Django REST framework is as a powerful and flexible toolkit for building web APIs, because we want to create our backend API in Django. So for that we need to use Django REST framework. So now you need to install this. We can if we come down, so you can see we can use pip install Django REST framework. So I'm going to just copy this, and so in here I want to just install pip install Django REST framework. So you can see that now we have Django 3.1 in here in our site packages. Now we are waiting for the Django REST framework installation. Okay, now Django REST framework has been installed, and we have the latest version of Django REST framework. It's 3.1. Now we have Django and also Django REST framework. Now it's time to create our first project in Django. So now in here you can use, so let me just show you the documentation for the creating a project in Django. So you can see that we can use Django at main, and after that start project, and at the end you need to give the name of your project. Whatever the project is, you need to give the name of the project. So now let me just show you. So we can use Django at main. So after that start project, and now you need to give the name of the project. So for example, I'm going to give it API project, and after that hit enter. So now our project is created. Now let me just check. Okay, now we have API project, and you can see that I have some files in here. So init.py, settings.py, urls.py. I will talk about these files. Now first what I want to do is to run our project. Now I'm going to just change my directory to API project, and after that I'm going to use Python. So you can see we have manage.py, so it's a command line utility, and we can use Python manage.py run server. Now I'm waiting for this. Now you can see that we have a development server in this port 8000. So if I check this, now let me just go to localhost port 8000, and you can see that we have Django installed in here. And you can see that we are using Django 3.1, and at the time of recording this video, it's the latest version. So now let me just do some configuration on my PyCharm ID. So right now, if you see, we have used Python manage.py run server for running our development server. Now I want to configure this with the PyCharm ID, that I can do this using the run button of PyCharm. Now what I want to do is, so let me just close this, terminate the server, and now if I refresh the project, you can see that we are not seeing anything. Now what I want to do is to click on the add configuration, and after that click on the Python. Now in here we need to just find our project, and from that we can use manage.py, and in here we need to just use run server, and we can apply and click on the OK. Now if I open my manage.py, now let me just run this. So you can see that now we have our project in here. Let me just close this. Now you can run from here. And this is our project. Let me refresh my page, and this is the project. Alright guys, now let's talk about these files. So we have some files in our project, in our Django project. We have init.py, asg.py, settings.py, urls, wsgi, db.sqlite3, and also manage.py. Now if you see Django documentation, so let me just come down. So you can see that these are our project structure. So now this is our root directory, so our main project. So this is the API project, and in the main API project we have manage.py. Now the manage.py is a command line utility. If you see in here, manage.py, it's a command line utility that lets you interact with this Django project in various ways. As you have already saw that we have used Python manage.py run server. So it's a command line utility for interacting with this Django project. Now after that we have our init.py. So if you see, we have init.py. So this is an MPT file, and it's not related to Django, it's related to Python. And you can see that an MPT file that tells Python that this directory should be considered a Python package. After that we have settings.py. Now this is one of the important file, and it is the configuration for this Django project. And if I open settings.py, we will talk about this a lot. And so if I come down, you can see that we have different things in here. Now the important point is the installed apps. So these are the installed apps that we have in our Django project, and it's installed by default. We have middlewares, and we have our templates. Now in here we can add, if you're using for example Django as a full stack, for example backend and frontend in Django, then you can create templates, and you can add the directory, the path of the templates in here. And also you can see that this is the database, and if you see, we have db.sqlite3, and it's created by default. And by default the database engine is SQLite3, and it's used by default by Django project. Now if you open this db.sqlite3, now let me just open this in the SQLite Studio. So add database, and from here we can just find our YouTube project. So YouTube tutorial, and we can just go to API project and db.sqlite3, and if I click on this, so right now you can see that our database is empty. What we want to do is to make migrations and create some default tables for our Django project, like at main, art, and these files. So now what I want to do is to let me just do that. Okay, now in here what I want to do is to change my project to API project, to the Django project. And after that what I want to do is to say Python manage.py migrate. So now you can see that we have these migrations. Now if you refresh your tables, now let me just refresh this. I have refresh all database schema. You can see that now I have 10 tables in here. So you can see out group permissions, users. Now these are created by default by Django. So now the another file is, for example, it's urls.py, and let me just remove this. We will talk about this urls.py more, but right now, so if you see Django documentation, now the URL declarations for this project, for this Django project. So it's a URL the declaration for our this Django project. And right now you can see that we have just admin in here. Now if I go to the admin, so you can see that this is the Django administration panel. Right now we haven't created our super user, but we will talk about this. So just keep in mind that this is for the URL configuration for the Django project. And also there are some more files. We have asg.py, so it's an entry point for asg compatible web services to serve your project. And also we have wsgi.py, it's an entry point for WSGI compatible web servers. So like this you can create your first project in Django.